Chris O'Connor here. Join the Curmudgeon Rock Report's invite-only curmudgeonly community at facebook.com/curmudgeonrock. Also look out for a Spotify playlist that pays honor to this episode.
This is the Curmudgeon Rock Report, and this is your podcast made by rock geek iconoclastic outsiders for rock geek iconoclastic outsiders. For those of you who lament that rock music has gone the way of jazz and slipped into niche genre status, we are here to keep that flame alive by providing insight, analysis, recommendations, and honest takes, not hot takes. And hey, there's a good chance you'll learn some rock history you never knew before. When people think of the great R&B, soul, funk, male vocalists of the 1970s, the legendary names that usually come up are as follows: James Brown, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Isaac Hayes, Barry White, Curtis Mayfield, and the subject of this episode, the great Al Green. Before he became a Reverend and turned to full-time gospel music, Green and his brilliant producer Willie Mitchell created an awe-inspiring run of albums that contained some of the most incredible music and singles of the 1970s. And that music was indeed sublime. Green and Mitchell created a rich tapestry of grinding funk workouts, swampy R&B groove jams, and heartbreaking ballads, as well as stylistic ventures into blues, country, and disco. Sonically, these records were distinctive from all the other R&B and soul of their era, with their emphasis on space, their subtlety with arrangements, and an overall economy of notes and chord changes. And then there was Green's voice itself, an instrument that was just as rhythmically and melodically effective as the musicians behind him. A voice whose owner was just as brilliant in lyrical interpretation as he was at wringing every bit of emotion out of his phrasing. Personally, and obviously, I'm a big Al Green fan, but Curmudgeon Chris is an Al Green super fan. So let's see if he can get through this episode without coming in his pants. Welcome to this joyous celebration of Al Green's peak 1970s albums and why his legacy matters. And welcome to the Curmudgeon Rock Report.
Hey man, feels like it's been a while, so why don't we get right to it, shall we? Parallel universe, baby. Parallel universe.
I hear that. I hear that sound. Oh
yeah.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Parallel Universe, folks. This is where we tackle new and newish albums from artists that we think you would dig. The concept here is that in a parallel universe where things made actual sense and ICE isn't murdering people for no good reason in Minneapolis and all is well with the world and everything makes sense, that means rock and roll is still king. Hey, long live rock and roll. Right. It shall never die in the parallel universe. That means Oasis never broke up, and they didn't have to come back. That means that like Cameron Winter's an all-purpose celebrity. Like he's like David Lee Roth popular. So it's that kind of stuff that happens.
Does that mean universe. Cameron Winter would be like paying his security staff to bring in groupies?
Yeah, probably. Hey, why not? With power comes no responsibility. So we'll see. Anyway, again, so we cover new and newish artists and albums that we think that you would dig. And so for your pick this week, Arturo, who are you talking about?
Yes, I'm talking about Sleaford Mods, and their new album just came out recently, The Demise of Planet X. The British indie electro-punk duo Sleaford Mods have been one of the most consistent and exciting musical acts in the world for a little over a decade. 8 albums in, and they're showing no signs of letting up. With Andrew Fern on programmed laptop beats and Jason Williamson on heavily Cockney vocals, providing astute socio-political commentary and condemnations of popular culture with a ranting, raving vocal style best described as rhythmic spoken word, they're as much a socio-political art project as they are a musical group. On this album, Williamson's lyrics take on a sense of resignation and overall disillusionment with a world that's politically veering toward fascism and culturally veering toward ignorance and apathy. Musically, I'd say the overall identifiable sound is downbeat funk, with Fern refreshingly adorning the music with more textured arrangements than ever before. The first half of the record still has that patented Sleaford Mods minimalism, though, with kick-ass tracks such as The Good Life, Elitist, GOAT, and Megaton. A few tracks on the album's first half drag the album down a little bit with sagging, meandering beats such as No Touch and Bad Santa. On Double Diamond, Williamson rambles on about how sick he is of everything, including his music, and it sure sounds like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But from track 7 onward, that is the heart of this album. And it's when it settles into that downbeat funk groove I mentioned earlier. And there are some surprises too, with Kill List featuring UK rapper Snowy being possibly the most purely hip hop based song they've ever done. It's a solid 4 out of 5 star album. Hopefully, first time listeners will be inspired to go back and listen to all their albums in order to truly enjoy how great these guys are. They are a British institution. God bless them. Chris?
Yeah, great band and really good album. They've had a shtick for a long time. They're basically, their background is as a DIY kind of wise ass group with, like you said, Fern making his beats, and up until now he's kind of reveled in their cheapness, and they're obviously homemade beats, and so just kind of hamming it up with that sort of ghetto fab type of sound. But yeah, like you said, the thing that stands out the most about the music on this album is how textured it is and how groovy it is, and just how much a lot of spots it just rocks. Yeah. Like The Good Life it's kind of like last year at this time, where the Lambrini girls introduced big dick energy to the world. And at the time, I thought I might not hear a better song all year than this one. And it turns out I was right. That was the best song I heard in all of 2025. Well, The Good Life is a candidate to maybe do that same thing. That song is killer. Awesome little beat on that little almost electro kind of, almost guitarish kind of riff, and sort of the sung chorus and just real edge from Williamson on that song too. Like you said, the second half has its charms too. I like Gina Was. I think that's a cool little song. And it ends really strong with Unwrap, which is kind of Williamson shitting on like commercialism and just sort of cheap, shallow culture.
Which frankly he's been doing for over a decade.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, it's nothing new, but it's still pretty profound when he does it. I think he this time he's angry, but it's angry resignation more than ever. He sounds like really beaten down and really kind of just exasperated.
He is old. He is older too. He's married. Yeah. He has kids. I think he's our age. He's in his early 50s.
Yeah, and he's definitely, like I said, his profanity is some of the best in all of popular music. He turns fucking into a 4-letter word, or into a 4-syllable word. Excuse me, a 4-syllable word.
Yeah.
Fuck. You know, he really winds up when he's swearing on record. So, yeah, definitely Sleaford Mods. Again, the year's only 3 weeks old, but we have at least one strong album and perhaps a candidate to end up on some top 10 end of year lists by December. So we'll see. So there you go. And since it is so early in the year, I have yet to hear a record that would inspire me to want to focus on 2026 yet. So we're going to go back into 2025, and we're scraping up the stuff we missed, or I'm scraping up the stuff I missed when I was putting together my top 10 records. Our top 10 list when we did our episode in December. And so let's talk about a very late in the year of 2025 discovery of mine from Ryan Davis and the Roadhouse Band and their album New Threats from the Soul, which was one of the best records I heard from 2025 ultimately. So let's talk about Ryan Davis and New Threats from the Soul. So it seems to happen every year, and it's been happening for me and to me for a couple of decades now. It's kind of like a Murphy's Law for me. When one finishes a year-end top 10 list and submits it or makes it public, or as it is for both of us these days, we record it, inevitably one will find an album within the next couple of weeks that, had it been on the radar before said deadline or publication, would have been on the goddamn list. And here we go. Thus, The winner of the 2025 O'Connor Missed Top 10 Opportunity Award is Ryan Davis and the Roadhouse Band's New Threat from the Soul. Boy, what an experience this album is. Bandleader Davis is a Louisville native currently based in Indiana with a remarkable grasp on Americana country soul music and lots and lots and lots to say, and the ability to say it really, really, really well. Davis and the Roadhouse Band's second album, last year's New Threats from the Soul, is a hell of an adventurous listening experience, one that I recommend that you take on. Be sure to do it with headphones on and a lyric sheet in front of you, though, and be ready to stay attentive for nearly a full hour. New Threats from the Soul has 7 songs that span over 57 minutes. Yes, these songs are long and lyrical, but surprisingly focused and cohesive, which counterintuitively swims against Davis's evident ambition. There's not much in the way of jamming on this album, with the exception of the soulful marathon tune Mutilation Spring, the end of that song. So get ready to feel and swim through very intentional 7 to 12 minute long songs. These songs manage to tell stories, serve as confessionals, and paint broadly stroked and evocative portraits of people, places, and the heart. Davis's lyrics are awesomely, again, there's that word adventurous, but also heartfelt. All the while, his band spikes the arrangements with lovely pedal steel, violin, piano, sax, and percussion touches. These songs play like the hit country of the late 1970s, think Mac Davis or Johnny Paycheck, and twists them into a kaleidoscopic soundscape. The title track here, New Threats from the Soul, introduces us to a dazzling talent immediately. Get a load of this first verse and chorus. Quote, I jolted up to some new transference from a sliding door on a sister vessel and just let it play through. I left my wallet in El Segundo. I left my true love in a West Lafayette escape room. She had the kind of smile to get a blue swine in trouble, kind of smile to get a violent 1 or 2-time felon employed. My little Jessica Rabbit, my Betty Rubble, my Moki Cherry, my Peggy Bundy, my Helen of Troy. But I thought that I could make a better life with bubble gum and driftwood. Her sweet nothings were nothing more than debts I would owe. She said that nothing could make her feel quite as loved as one early morning kiss could, but I've been up too late one too many nights. Why I let her go, and for who I'll never know. Right there and then, that's where they begin these new threats from the soul. It's kind of like Tarantino deciding to suddenly croon country. Wow. Other highlights here include Mutilation Springs, which aforementioned, a lovely paean to a seemingly mystical hometown and the nostalgia that burns for it, which winds its way through several movements in and out of electronic effects and into dizzying high-point mixtures of pianos and horns. There's the awesomely catchy and poignant Better If You Make Me, a quirky but structurally gorgeous, wonderfully orchestrated country rock love song. And then there's what I think is the best song on the album, and one of the best songs from 2025, the magnificently rendered The Simple Joy, on which Davis evokes Being There era Wilco with a breezy, lovely piano-driven tune rubbed against literate, rich lyrics. On the second verse, Davis intones, quote, home was close, death was hard, friends are both. You can't put a sticker or a price on hurt. Trust is a flower that's toxic to some and it grows from beneath. I learned that time is not my friend or my foe, more like one of the guys from work, and life was a safe if you could crack it or not. I slapped the factory clock with the rose in my teeth. Those who helped grow me didn't know me, kinda lonely, nearly landed a kill shot till I grew up and started living alone. Now you can spell R.I.P. in limestone on a hilltop with the sediment they cried when I didn't come home. Unquote. Ooh. New Threats from the Soul is one of those albums that feels like it was made just for me. It's grand, it's sweeping, it's lovely, it's emotionally resonant, and at times it's also magnificently and epically strange. Each listen reveals new pleasures and an ever-expanding bag of tricks that lay up Davis's sleeves. Really great stuff, and an album I'll be enthusiastic about for a long time, I have to believe. Check out one of the best albums from the past year plus. I hope you'll be as pleasantly drawn into its charms and soulful filament as I am. Arturo?
Yeah, I think this album's pretty good. I think it's all right. I think it's a little too long, and the songs are too long. And that's why I think most of the songs drift into background music. You know, his lyrics are I admit he's a good songwriter. I just think he needs an editor. He needs an editor, and he needs probably a better producer to rein him in, because his lyrics, while I acknowledge they're pretty interesting and original, they just ramble on and on and on and on to the point where you lose interest, you know? So I really wish he was more concise. I really wish his songs are shorter. And I think he kind of needs that for his next record. Like I said, I think he's a talented dude. I think he's a pretty good songwriter. I just wish his songs had editing to them. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those rare instances where there's not a lot of people that can pull off like good long songs. Like Elton John was good at the 6 minute, 7 minute song. And then, maybe you're right that maybe it's better to do 6 or 7 minutes than like 9 minutes. Like, New Threats from the Soul was 9 minutes. But the weird thing about that song is it's structured like verse, chorus, verse. And there's only a little bit of noodling on this album, and really comes in Mutilation Springs. And then there's a couple of odd musical breaks, almost Celtic musical breaks in one of the songs at the beginning of the record. But otherwise, it's just these stretched and sort of epic songs. Like The Simple Joy is amazing, and it just builds, and it just really, I don't know, in some ways almost surrealist at times. The way
it is
the way it winds. Yeah, The Simple Joy is definitely the best song on the record, and it's just awesome. It's the highlight. And you're right. He's a guy that probably could use an editor, and maybe he'll realize that at some point. I bet he puts on a great live show, though.
But see, here's the thing. I mean, him not having an editor is probably why this album hasn't gotten the bigger buzz that it has. Or right, he hasn't gotten as big of a buzz as he probably wants.
I mean, that could be it. But at the same time, I believe he finished in the top 20 on Pitchfork's list, and I think he was definitely in Rolling Stone's top 50. So he got some accolades last year. But at the same time, like you said, it requires a certain appreciation for literate. You have to be in that sort of almost like, because Wilco had some long stuff back in the day too. And Neil obviously does killer 10-minute songs. So
their length isn't about the song lyrics that just go on and on. With their length is the music.
Yeah, it's the music, and that's the thing. It's kind of a neat attempt at something that Davis is doing here, which is long songs without jams, and without guitar interludes, and without noodling. Which again, to me, that's admirable. Chris here again. We usually end our episodes by inviting you to join our Curmudgeonly community page on Facebook. Well, we're picking up our efforts there. Know people just as passionate as us about rock and roll? Invite them to join in the fun. You don't actually need our permission to do so. Also, expect to see a lot more content up there moving forward. Our mission is to engage you, so darn it, we'll engage you like a fire hose, or maybe like a firehouse if we're going to give love to Gene Simmons. We may also be making a few offers. Want to wear a t-shirt featuring our logo? You may have that opportunity soon. So be a fellow curmudgeon, help us expand our little community, and share your own musings via your own posts. We're at facebook.com/groups/curmudgeonrock. Al Green is special. I'm going to love this conversation and this interaction in this episode, because Al Green is one of my favorite artists of all time. Just an incredibly gifted person and talent and singer and songwriter, and who partnered with one of the best producers in the history of popular music too. So it's all special, and we're going to get right into it right now. Right, Art?
Yeah, and we start with his origin story. Al Green was born in Forest City, Arkansas in 1946 to a sharecropper family, the sixth of 10 children. He was also born into a devoutly Christian family. In the late 1950s, his family moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and this is the period when his mind was blown away by R&B, soul, and early rock and roll. In high school, he formed a vocal group called Al Green and the Creations. After they graduated, two of the group's members, Curtis Rogers and Palmer James, formed an independent label called Hotline Music Journal. In 1966, they then changed their name to Al Green and his Soulmates, and even scored a hit called Backup Train, that made it to the R&B singles chart. They never had another hit, though, but fortune smiled on the young Mr. Green. While performing with the Soulmates at a show in Memphis in 1968, he met Willie Mitchell, who had his own band and offered Green a slot as the lead vocalist. So much for the Soulmates. Mitchell also owned his own independent record label called High Records, which had major label distribution via London Records and was based in Memphis. After playing a series of shows in Texas, Mitchell signed Green to the label as a solo act. At this early point in his career, Green basically tried to sound like his influences, which included Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke, Wilson Pickett, and of course, James Brown. However, Mitchell encouraged Green to find his own voice in the studio, and Green certainly tried his best. His solo debut album, Green is Blues, came out in the spring of 1969, and while a moderate success in the southern region, didn't really yield any hits. Green was still trying to come into his own as a singer, and the vast majority of the tracks on the album were covers, albeit very well-produced covers. The real breakthrough would come with his second album. But before we get into Green's golden streak of records and singles, what say you, Chris, about Al Green's origin story?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the most remarkable thing is that Al Green, one of the foremost Memphis musicians of all time, wasn't from Memphis.
Nope.
He was an import. And it was because he had a chance meeting with Willie Mitchell. Yeah. And Willie Mitchell was ambitious, and he was out there trying to make it. And he had his own record label, High Records, spelled H-I, not high as in getting high as shit. So it's more like high. So just there's a chance meeting, two ambitious young guys who appreciated each other. And it was just sort of a marriage of not convenience, but just sort of they were equally ambitious in that Willie saw that Green had this incredible voice that maybe he could harness and do something with. And then Green saw Mitchell's band as being like really great musically. And it's like, oh, well, those are the type of musicians that I want to work with. And these guys are way better than my band now. So it's just the way it forms. And so it's kind of like Superman meeting Batman in black music. It's pretty special. I mean, I could see, like I said, Green obviously was influenced by all those folks that you mentioned, but he still is really young. So at what point do you stop mimicking, and at what point do you start looking into yourself and to try to figure out what you have? And the world is a better place for Mitchell having challenged Green to stop faking it.
Right.
So that's what I'll say is that, and thus segues us into one of the more magical streaks of any artist and any production house. If you want to talk about High and High Records and in the High Rhythm section, right, as they were known, the house band, this is one of the more special streaks in the history of popular music.
Right. Let's start with Al Green Gets Next to You from 1971. Bit of a stalker kind of a album title, but he's got some weird album titles. You'll hear about him later. Al Green's second solo album is the first of his incredible hot streak. And on this record, the Al Green-Willie Mitchell formula starts to take shape. The space between the instruments is just as important as the instruments played, as they help create a sense of levitation in the songs, especially in creating anticipation for the vaunted horn arrangements that Green records are known for. The rhythm section is always crisp, and the guitars are always tasteful with an economy of notes and riffs, restraint, tension, release, and levitation. That's what I think of when I think of the Al Green sound. And of course, it wouldn't matter if the songs themselves weren't great. Green's originals start to take center stage in his albums here, sharing equal space with the covers. The sublime soul groover Tired of Being Alone was his first major hit, crossing over to the top 20 of the Billboard pop chart. The bluesy I'm a Ram is classic, gritty, southern fried soul. And the covers are great too. His version of Can't Get Next to You blows away the Temptations' original version. And his version of Burt Burns' Are You Lonely for Me Baby is powerful. I rate this as one of his 4 best albums. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the first 4 albums we're covering are basically all perfect. Degrees of perfect. This is like first degree perfect, and then it gets all the way to like infinite perfect by the 4th of these records. But the first, let's give a shout out. So Al Green, for the entirety of his partnership with Willie Mitchell was backed by what was known as the high rhythm section. And so the high rhythm section consisted of three brothers Hodges. So there was the organist Charles Hodges, the bassist Leroy Hodges, and especially the guitarist Mabon Teeny Hodges. He went by Teeny. So Teeny Hodges. And then there was the pianist Archie Turner, who shows up. He's especially prominent in a couple of records down the road with electric piano. And then the drumming was split between a guy named Howard Grimes and then Al Jackson Jr. If you're a regular listener of our podcast, that name will be familiar because we talked a lot about Al Jackson Jr. on the last episode when we covered Stax Volt's work in the 60s. Al Jackson was part of Booker T and the MGs, but he also generally played on the hits and the best songs from Al's first 4, 5, 6 records in there. And then they also had a couple members of the Memphis Horns. So basically a subsection of the Memphis Horns was part of the high rhythm section too. So you're talking like this is a powerful group of people, and these are the ones that are backing up Al. Now, with that said, probably my second favorite Al Green album. This album just rocks. Part of this is because it's the only one without strings. No strings on this record. And so it's meaty, it's tough, it just kind of rocks out. It just has a swagger and a flavor to it that just is just really infectious. Like you said, the cover of I Can't Get Next to You is just amazing. It's just this incredible reimagining of that song. Of instead of being this almost like discotheque kind of funk thumper, they slow it down and they make it sexy. They make it swaggering. They make it groovelicious. And just awesome horn arrangement, awesome harmony vocals, just really great stuff. Tired of Being Alone, obviously, is the biggest hit here. That's a great song, just indelible. I love It's a Ram. It's a Ram is one of my 3 or 4 favorite Al Green songs. Let's just put it this way. When I die, when the pallbearers carry me over to my grave, I want them to be playing I'm a Ram when they take me over. It's just awesome. Like an incredible drumming sound from Al Jackson Jr. on that song. Awesome little guitar lick on the bridge by Teeny. Just fiery and sexy as hell. Just basically the least subtle title ever. Yeah, you know what he's going for when he says I'm a Ram. So just awesome. And another thing to mention, with I Can't Get Next to You, Savoy Brown, about a year or two later, basically stole Alan Willie's arrangement for I Can't Get Next to You on one of their albums, Street Talking. But Kim Simmons was such a good guitarist that it was completely forgivable. And so that's my shameless plug for one of my favorite Lost bands, Savoy Brown. Check them out too.
All right, the next album on this hot streak, Let's Stay Together from 1972. This album will forever be known for the title track, which was a massive worldwide hit, going to #1 on both the R&B and pop singles chart, becoming arguably Green's signature song. But the album as a whole is terrific. His version of the Bee Gees ballad, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, is soul-stirring to the core and outclasses the original to the point that Green makes it his own. However, this is Green's first album that is dominated by his originals. With So You're Leaving, with that song, never before has anyone made romantic disillusionment sound so joyous and funky. Old Time Lovin' is a showcase for how Green can shout, growl, croon, and go all falsetto in the same song. I have this as Green's third best album. Chris?
Yeah, objectively, you can say it's third best, but this is like second degree perfect. This album just has glorious stuff, and this is like Willie Mitchell stepping up and showing just how much of a freaking magician he really was. I mean, Let's Stay Together is like a perfect song and just a perfect arrangement and just perfectly well done. That song is one of several co-writes over the span of like 5 or 6 albums that were co-written by Willie Mitchell, Al Green, and Al Jackson Jr. And it's pretty obvious that Al Jackson Jr. had a hand in the writing because the drum fills on Let's Stay Together are like genuinely exciting and just a driving song, and it's a joyous song, but it's just driving too. And so, I mean, just so resonant and just really just perfect that Mitchell just knew how to put Green's album, or he knew how to put Green's voice right in the pocket. like almost all the time during their relationship. Like he knew how to place Green's vocals right where they needed to be, which is just marvelous. And so again, Late Stay Together, just an awesome song. The drumming and Teeny's guitar is pretty incredible on that. I'm a big fan for La La for You. James Mitchell, who was Willie Mitchell's brother, tended to arrange the horns on these records. And the horns on the albums have an emotionality to them that just an unusual expressiveness. It's almost like the horns are crying. It's got this weird alluringness to it, which just remarkable. And again, you get that emotional and sonic resonance to these production and these performances that are just really wholly unique in the rock and R&B canons. Theirs was really a music you felt and lived as much as you heard or listened to or even esoterically experienced. Just hits you in the gut consistently. And, for as good as the originals are on this record, I mean, two of the other highlights are cover songs. Like you said, the version of How Do You Mend a Broken Heart from the Bee Gees. I mean, I swear, Al Green and Barry Gibb were like just kindred spirits as songwriters and performers. Both of those guys just specialized in drama and honesty and depth of feeling. But it's like they specialized in the same brand of bold statement in terms of how they approached their vocals. So it's just kind of incredible even though this one is slowed and stretched and taken to 6.5 minutes, it's almost faithful to the Bee Gees in spirit. And then I love the cover of Eddie Floyd's I've Never Found a Girl Who Loves Me Like You Do. That was the most Motown song that Stax Vold ever did. That's a co-write between Eddie Floyd and Booker T and the MGs, or Booker T anyway. But Al finds the slow burn sensuality and turns things from sweet and bubbly to gloriously horny and sensual. And it's one of Willie's best spaces, it's one of Willie's best uses of space in the entire Al Green canon. And then there's just these great baritone sax touches on that song too. One thing to note that Al, even from early on, we didn't mention it, but in 71, the Gets Next to You album had what amounted to like one gospel song early on. It was a cover of a Johnny Taylor song. And this album had No God, which was a rarity in Al's catalog, that he was mostly carnal and mostly romantic in these early albums, but he did manage to sprinkle in songs of faith or just kind of proof that, I think it's real. And it's kind of a spiritual struggle is at play even on, but not on this record or the next one for that matter. Speaking of which.
Yeah, the next record, this is his fourth album, but the third in his hot streak, I'm Still in Love with You from 1972 as well. The only criticism one can make with this album is that it isn't as brilliant as the previous one, which is to say that this is still a very good album. The title track is one of the greatest romantic R&B mid-tempo jams ever recorded, and it was another huge hit, going to #1 on the R&B chart and #3 on the pop chart. Like, he was one of the biggest music stars in the country at this point. The entire second half of Generation X, our generation, Chris, was conceived in bedrooms with their parents listening to this song.
Yep.
Love and Happiness wasn't released as a single, but it should have been one with its sweaty, swampy, irresistible groove. The gorgeous ballad, What a Wonderful Thing Love Is, showcases Green's genius for taking otherwise trite sentiment and making it universal and transcendent. Chris?
Yeah, this album is just amazing. Like this and the next album we're going to talk about, they have what I call a magic that detaches me from reality when I listen to them. They take me to someplace magical that doesn't really exist. I mean, I can't conceive of guys in sound booths and production boards and instruments and all of that. There's just these living organisms and are just incredible albums, both masterpieces. Love and Happiness is one of the best songs ever written, and certainly one of R&B's greatest arrangement jobs. I mean, maybe its best arrangement jobs ever. The horns on the bridge are just like the most quotable thing ever, right? Bow, 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 bow. That just sticks in your head. So you just get that. And then obviously the bluesy guitar lick on it too is pretty awesome as well. And so Love and Happiness, it's like one big long vamp. It's just like a giant vamp. Just really great energy there. Other great songs, Love, Look What You Done For Me, which is another co-write between Green, Mitchell, and Al Jackson Jr. Just really amazing single and just really genuine strings just washing over the top of Teeny's awesome riffage. And then you get a horn vamp on the chorus that just has a really like strong power to it. And then there's also, I mean, the most magical moment on the entire record comes on the second half of What a Wonderful Thing Love Is, which, as you said, is just absolutely gorgeous and utterly soaring. And it's just rumination of the beauty of love. I mean, just completely engrossing, almost overwhelming in its arrangement and rendering. It's just that mix of strings and backing vocals and the riff and just everything else. It's just the prettiest goddamn thing ever, really. And then the covers, he's got a cover of Oh Pretty Woman that is like oddly faithful to Roy Orbison.
It's my least favorite song on the album because if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna cover a song, do something unique and different with it. Don't just like do the same thing that the original does.
Yeah. Basically, it's Roy Orbison's tempo with strings behind it. That's the only difference. And then there's the only real. It's not a misstep. It's forgivable because it's so pretty. But there's a cover of Chris Christopherson's For the Good Times that probably goes on a little too long and stretches out a little too much. But it's a preview of what he pulls off magnificently on the next record a couple of times. This idea of dabbling into country. So there you go. I'm Still in Love with You. Just a truly transcendent record. Incredible mastery of the studio and the R&B idiom. And then we get the next album, which is one of my favorites of all time.
Right. Call Me from 1973. This is the album that is generally regarded as Green's best album, and it is. A stone cold classic and one of two Green albums that should be on anyone's list of the 500 greatest albums ever. It's a refinement and crystallization of the Al Green, Willie Mitchell sound. The originals are outstanding, with three of them making the top 10 of the Billboard pop chart. The lush, sensuous You Ought to Be With Me went to number 3, while both the shimmering, simmering title track and Here I Am, Come and Take Me went to number 10. The latter song is my pick for the best track on the album, with one of the most beautifully and perfectly layered horn arrangements on any song ever produced. On the previous record, Green flirted with country covers by doing what you mentioned, Chris, a Chris Christopherson song. On Call Me, he steps even further into country by covering Hank Williams with a devastating R&B version of I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, and he covers Willie Nelson with a haunting version of Funny How Time Slips Away. Overall, it's a tour de force that consolidated Green's place as one of the definitive soul artists of the decade. Chris?
Yeah, absolute fucking masterpiece. One of my favorite albums of all time of any genre, and you know that. I've been raving about this album for 25 years. I mean, I first heard it 25 years ago and was just my jaw just dropped then, and it continues to drop now every time I hear it. Probably my favorite non-hip hop album from an African American artist. If you were to ask me to do a top 100 albums or a top 500 albums, this would probably be my highest placing album by a black artist, which I know is a bold statement, but I really believe that. There's just a magic, indescribable magic and power to this album that just never relents. And just to make my point, this is an album that's like so freaking great that even the snarkiest critic in the world, Robert Christgau, calms down and has to give Al Green his props. So this is from Christgau. So his consumer guide review of Call Me. Quote, I originally believed people would buy this only so they wouldn't have to get up and flip I'm Still in Love with You, and I was probably right. But no other album documents Green's genius for the daring nuance so thrillingly. Stand Up is the subtlest black identity song ever. Jesus is Waiting, a profession of faith you can believe in. And Here I Am, an up-tempo vehicle that sneaks up from in front of you. The interpretations of Country Weepers by Hank Williams and Willie Nelson are definitive. The vocals are tougher than on the two classic Green LPs that preceded it, and the rhythms are irresistible. Al Jackson and Henry Grimes' thick third beat 4/4 kicks in with all kinds of extra surprises. And as always, it's only a frame for a music that moves as one sinuous body with Green dodging and weaving in at the head. A plus. So again, that's basically Chris got humbled into playing it straight. So basically, let's talk a little bit more about this album. More co-writes with Willie Mitchell and Al Jackson Jr. Call Me, Come Back Home, and You Ought to Be With Me, which are both just really neat, happy, peppy, passionate songs. Just some really, especially on You Ought to Be With Me, there's some really great like baritone sax notes that hit perfectly in the song's second half. Just really lovely touches. And then there's the country songs. I mean, like the treatment of I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry is just absolutely astonishing in the sense that, like, the original, it's all about Hank's voice, right? And it's basically sort of spare accompaniment and just that kind of that yowl that Hank was known for, and the power is in that. But here you get this maximal soul machine, applied to that honest expression of heartbreak.
He makes it a black R&B song instead of a white country boy music song.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary accomplishment. The strings are just unbelievably good. I mean, the just perfectly placed drums. The organ is awesome on this song, and his vocal take on it with those yelps and coos. Everything is just so sublime. And that's especially true. Like Funny How Time Slips Away is a great song from Willie Nelson. It's basically a waltz. It's a 4/4 waltz. And here, like, you just have Al stretching and slowing. It's basically what they were doing on the Chris Christopherson cover, but it works better. That it's stretched out and so magnificent and so hypnotic that it's like 5.5 minutes long, but it feels like it's 20 minutes. It's just a hugely just visceral experience listening to it. Then you probably have my two favorite songs. My three favorite songs on the record. Have You Been Making Out Okay?
Yeah,
which is just amazing. I mean, just the melody on it, the Teeny's guitar on that, and just Al's just sort of his lyrics of regret for a lost love. The electric piano solo on it is also awesome and just really thick and really just extraordinary. Then you get Here I Am, Come and Take Me, which you talked about, which I think might be Al's best song overall. It's just so awesome. Like the horns in the middle of it, and just the bridge section, which just seems to go on forever. But with Al just sort of just really pouring out his heart is just awesome. The whole thing is just rich and resonant and powerful. And Al, in some ways, just sounds desperate and unhinged lyrically and conceptually, but it's just so goddamn lovely that it almost obscures how desperate he really is on the song. And then there's the album closer, which is just astonishing. Jesus Is Waiting. And this is it starts off at first about it as a slow burning statement at first of just general faith and hopefulness, and that Jesus is waiting, and aren't we all? We'll get there and keep hope alive. And then it just slowly, as it winds on, and it's almost like a blues riff.
Yeah.
As it gets to the second half of it, it turns into Al in just doing a confessional and just bearing his soul for God. And it's like the most naked, most like vulnerable moment in Al's entire catalog. And where he gets to the point where he's just like, I said I've been a fool disregarding your love. Hey, Father, I just want to tell you I'm sorry. And that I'm sorry bit where he goes in a falsetto is so fucking moving. You're talking like, and I'm just sort of waxing rhapsodic here, but like, you have certain albums that have those moments that are just transcendent and moving and just absolutely just arrest you and just suck you in. There's several moments on Astral Weeks from Van Morrison like that. There's several moments on Highway 61 Revisited from Dylan. that are like that. Obviously, Pet Sounds has a couple of moments like that. And you're talking like the greatest albums ever made. But Al just had the ability to get there too. And here it is at that moment more than any other place in Al's catalog where he does it. It's just, ooh, amazing, just almost heart stopping, and just how amazing it is as far as a moment. So, yeah, it's a pretty incredible album. I listened to it twice today in preparations for this. For this, I've listened to it I think 7 times in the last 2 weeks, but I listened to it twice today, and I get the same feeling every time. It's amazing. It's just this consistent emotional experience for me.
The next album on this list is Green's second album of 1973, Livin' For You. He's living for you, really.
Yep.
One gets the feeling that Green blew his load on Call Me because the material on this record isn't as consistently great, but the good stuff is still sensational. The title track reached the top 20 of the pop singles chart, but the best track is Let's Get Married, with its sweeping strings and persistent yet sexy ass groove. Even when Green gets his pervert on with Sweet 16, one can't help but get swept up in the band's hot, steamy funk. Chris?
Yeah, this album's a little bit of a disappointment, or it's a come down from the couple albums before it. So it's not quite as strong or consistent, but it's got some interesting stuff on it. Like you said, Let's Get Married is a cool song, and it's just sort of one of those like kind of drawn out emotional performances from Green. Living For You is also very good. But to me, the highlight of the record, this is the beginning of a streak. There's almost a build up that goes on for the next few albums until we reach the end of this streak of Al having a dialectic with himself about where he stands, and this idea of fighting his bad impulses and trying to find his good impulses, and just sort of like what's right and what's true and how he should be living his life. And so you end up with like a juxtaposition layer of where he does a cover of the Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody, which basically turns it into an Al Green song. I mean, it's an orthodox Al Green song. It's got the strings. It's got the perfectly placed Al Green vocal. It's got the Willie Mitchell engineering. It's just this amazing. It's almost like showing off. Like, let's take a couple of white boys working for Phil Spector and turn it into a Memphis thing, man. It's basically them showing off, but also, it's like this really cheesy longing for romantic love. And then the next song after Unchained Melody is called My God Is Real. And so it's just sort of, and it kind of makes things, it adds a mystery to it. It's like, okay, so who does he need more, his lover or his God? And both songs are rich and tender. And it's like I said, My God Is Real. It's kind of a hokey sentiment, but he really means it. And so both of those songs are incredibly, performances and productions are incredibly heartfelt, but it kind of shows you what's going on. That Al is like drawn to, like you said, he grew up steeped in the faith, and then obviously you become a rock star and you get carnal, and you're fucking up here and there, and it's like what really matters to me, and so he's kind of having like a 5 album long crisis of character until he gets to the end of the road.
On this episode, we analyze the greatness of Al Green. For the next episode, we're moving 1 decade into the future and starting a new series, a 10-part series for that matter, but not consecutively, that will analyze the subgenre that the passage of time has determined to be the last great galvanizing revolutionary movement in rock music. In the mid-1980s in Seattle, the music scene there started to produce an original amalgam of sludgy heavy metal, intense punk rock, and classic blues-based 1970s rock that no one had heard before. By the beginning of the 1990s, this movement would take over the world and become the dominant and most popular style of American rock for the rest of the decade. More significantly, this movement transcended music and had a profound influence on pop culture. TV, film, fashion, and even social politics were all impacted by this movement. Of course, we're talking about grunge. The first of this 10-part series will analyze the music of the earliest movers and shakers of Seattle's grunge scene. Green River, Malfunction, The Melvins, and Soundgarden, as well as non-Seattle grunge-adjacent bands such as Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr., and the Pixies. Join us next time as the Curmudgeon Rock Report brings you The Saga of Grunge, Part 1, 1985 to 1987. All right, and now we continue the peak 1970s era albums of Al Green with probably the most disturbing album title for an Al Green album. Al Green Explores Your Mind from 1974. He wants to get next to you, and now he wants to explore your mind. This record represents a return to form for Green with some of his greatest songs on this album. Sha-La-La, Make Me Happy returned Green to the top 10 of the pop chart with a luscious slice of proto-disco, complete with a dramatic string arrangement to go with those ever-present horns. Green introduces Christianity even stronger than he did in the previous album, and also kind of in a subtle way, with the loping Take Me to the River, a song so great that Talking Heads would make it into their breakthrough hit single 4 years later. God Bless Our Love is one of the most stirring and moving soul ballads Green ever wrote, while Hangin' On punctuates the Green Mitchell team's classic mid-tempo groove with one of the sweetest, most melodic choruses Green ever came up with. This is the dark horse in Green's catalog. Chris?
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call it the dark horse. That comes up a little bit later. But yeah, this album's really, really strong. I mean, any album that starts with Sha-La-La and Take Me to the River, who cares who comes after it? You know, it belongs as part of your collection. Just a couple of incredible singles or a couple of songs there. Sha-La-La just has this really happy peppiness that almost like a soul bubblegum pop song. You know, it's just sing-songy as hell. And then you have Take Me to the River, which just has this incredible groove to it. And this is Howard Grimes on drum. Al Jackson Jr. didn't play on this album. And so you get almost like this hi-hat drum backing with the horns. And there's just a swagger to that song. And it's pretty bold because what you're doing is you're using baptism as a metaphor for getting over romantic disappointment. So the idea is, I've lost this love, and so I'm going to renew myself by coming up out of the water, you know. And so it's kind of, in a way, it's an invocation of Christianity without being about Christianity. There's almost like a bold wise-assness to that. It's like, I'm going to overcome and I'm going to be reborn even after you dump my ass. It's pretty much what's going on there. And then, I mean, I definitely prefer this version to the Talking Heads version, even though the Talking Heads version is pretty cool and it's pretty unique. But this just has won a really great vocal performance from Green, and it's just that shake and that swagger that's pretty awesome, too. And then, as you mentioned, this has another one of those juxtapositions, and they get more and more pronounced and more severe. Like you get these 1-2 punches, or you get these kind of yin and yang of what's going on as far as Al's battle for his own soul, whether he's going to give himself over to God or whether he's going to give up the earthly things. So you've got God Bless Our Love, which is just an over-the-top soul ballad, ode to marital bliss. I mean, it's corny as hell, but the lyric is corny as hell, but it's still really cool. It's done with real sincere feeling, and it just really great arrangement from Mitchell and the backing band. And then on the other hand, you have the song One Night Stand, which basically is an ode to a band groupie. It's a tribute to a groupie. You know, it's like he wants to do all the right things and be in accordance with God's commandments, but he still can't help himself but be one carnal bastard at this point. So there's that. Hanging On, great falsetto performance. One of the things I didn't mention in our discussion of Living for You is that on Unchained Melody, there's this incredible double tracking of Al's voice. It's not really like a full, choral overdub like you would get in some ways, but it's just like these little, 2 tracks of Al's voice, and it's just a really neat touch. And he does that again on Hanging On. And then School Days is another neat trick too. No one could squeeze more emotional depth or excitement out of a 4/4 song structure than Al. So it's just like basic 4/4. Like Otis used a lot of 4/4 as well.
Sure. Yeah.
But Al outdoes him on the 4/4 in terms of what he can extract from it. And so basically, especially like his best 4/4 uses are his songs of desperation, which School Days definitely is. It's like a fit of nostalgia for the beginning of a relationship as it's falling apart in the present day. It's like, can't we go back to school and have it as good as we had it then? So this is a good album.
I think it's a solid record. The next one, Al Green Is Love from 1975. This is a good but not great album that's powered by three outstanding songs. The beautiful track, Love Love, would be the last major crossover hit Green would have, hitting number 13 on the pop chart, and in the early 1980s, covered to sublime effect by the Scottish indie rock band Orange Juice. Rhymes as one of the most hypnotic grooves Green and Mitchell ever came up with, replete with stellar backing vocal accompaniment, and Love Ritual is so gritty and funky that it wouldn't have been out of place on a soundtrack to a blaxploitation film.
Nope.
Chris?
Yeah, this album, it's darker. It explores your mind. Had a lot of corny sentiment to it, but this album is a lot darker and a lot trickier, and just a very intelligently done album, because Love is just an amazing single. But one of the things that makes it so amazing is there's this journey in it where he's trying to talk up love, about how sweet it is, and I have love for my woman, and let's cultivate love, and love is such a special thing. And then halfway through the song, it becomes, love is a gift from God. And it's this celestial thing. It's this glorious thing, and that it's divine. And so it kind of turns into this talking about like agape love from the Bible, like this sort of commitment to Christ kind of love. It travels from romance all the way to agape in the span of about 4 minutes, which is just an amazing songwriting feat to me. And it just kind of reminds me a little bit of Paul Simon's Graceland, which starts off as a tribute to Elvis, and then, ends with that, I have reason to believe we all will be received in Graceland at the end. So similar. The juxtaposition, the duality on this album, you mentioned Love Ritual, which is essentially free jazz. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you could see Santana doing, like a funk band doing, and it's it really is kind of like a love ritual. It's nastily funky. It's a burning ode to covetousness, really, and
I just see it as a burning ode to fucking.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That it is. It's a burning ode. When I say covetousness, that's basically what I'm talking about, and it's just real free jazz. And then you get what I think is a really great song called "The Love Sermon," which it really is a sermon. It's basically this heartfelt prayer to God and doing love the right way and spreading love right throughout the world correctly, and really more 4/4 glory there. And then you get another standout. And the main other standout is "I Didn't Know," which is an 8-minute ballad with Al in like full growling lover mode. It's almost like his take on trying to be Otis Redding. And it's just really stretched out, dramatic expression of regret over a lost romantic opportunity.
Not one of the better songs on the album. That's one of the few instances where Al Green is trying too hard.
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, but it's also it's kind of a funny lyrical idea of like, I had no idea that you wanted me to ask you out. I blew it because I couldn't tell that you wanted me. And so, like I said, it's a darker album overall. Still really good.
All right. The next one, Full of Fire from 1976. Another good / solid album that falls just short of greatness is highlighted by two brilliant tracks. Glory, Glory sees Green get even closer to Christian lyrics, but when it's set to the backdrop of that patented, richly layered Green Mitchell groove, it makes anyone want to give themselves to the Lord. And then there's the title track, which is Green's first full immersion into disco, While most R&B slash soul artists of this era saw their ventures into disco sound contrived and forced, such was the lushness and beautifully arranged nature of Green's music that going into disco just seemed like a quick sidestep away. This would be Green's last hit on any level, topping out in the top 30 of the pop chart. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like Al's forgotten album in the sense that, like, Full of Fire was a minor hit, but it never moved on to hit any of the greatest hits albums. And so this album has kind of been dead and lost for a while, which is too bad because I think it's a great album. It's Al and Willie at their finest in terms of musical inspiration and arrangement. Like you said, you've got the foray into disco. Full of Fire's a great song, just nice syncopated rhythm, and he's really hot to trot on that song. So he's talking about real earthly sexual joy and focused on the dance floor as an outlet for release. And then on the flip side, and this is where I think he's in a full crisis of conscience at this point in terms of figuring out which direction he wants to go professionally. Because for every song like Full of Fire, you have songs like Glory, Glory, and then at the end of the album, Let It Shine, which
Yeah.
is another disco song, but it's a disco song basically about God. And so it's a split personality that it's just but the album, it's consistently well arranged. It's Alan Willie doing it for real. They're not being clever. They're doing what they've done. And the songs themselves, I mean, like, you don't get the sense that Al was actually trying to write hits on this album. It's like he was trying to express where he's at on both
Right.
sides. And so, so again, the dialectic is at its most extreme on this record. And yeah, I like this album. I think it's his most underrated record. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't say that for the next album. Have a Good Time from 1976, also from 76. It saddens me to say that this is the first and only dud in Green's hot streak of 1970s albums. It's the first album that is co-credited to both Green and Mitchell as producers, foreshadowing an eventual breakup in their partnership. Unfortunately, the album is lacking in quality material or songs that stick to the ear. The formula had run stale by this point, but sometimes you have to take a step back in order to make a big step forward, as the next album would be a cracker and a creative return to form. Chris?
Yep. Yeah. This album, I mean, this is Alan Willie's last ride. And this is the kind of album that you make in 1976 when your previous album didn't do all that well.
Yeah.
Full of Fire basically was a bomb commercially. But like you said, Full of Fire was, I guess, a modest or a minor hit, but the album didn't really sell well. And so this is the kind of thing where it's like Alan and Willie aren't doing their thing. It's like they're trying to be everyone else. And so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
so the album, it's corny, it's thin, and it's more trying to fit in with the times. And it's kind of the sound of Al coming to the grips with his waning place in the popular spotlight.
Right.
And there's one highlight on the album that's really good. I try to tell myself is basically Al being a professional hit maker, and that became a pretty decent hit. And it's kind of like Al Green writing an OJ song, you know, that
Yeah.
it's kind of similar in feel to Love Train. And as I said, it's a nice AM radio boogie, a sweet orthodox R&B tune, but in a way, Al is phoning it in, you
Yeah.
know,
Of course. Yeah.
and he's writing a hit because he can, not because he feels it. And so he really only sounds like he means it on the song called Happy. I mean, that's a pretty nice, pretty celebration of new love. And so there's that. Like, Have a Good Time is like the one, it's the only real gospel song on the record. So this is more him. I think he's taking a step back from the blatant Christianity here because he felt like he needed to sell records, which is ironic because this album bombed.
Yeah.
And despite the success, if I try to tell myself, it just, yeah, this was it, you know. And Willie just sounds bored. They almost like sound like they're sick of each other,
Yeah.
and they're at the end of the road. And so that was it.
And then finally, the last album on the list of the peak era of 1970s Al Green records And it's a brilliant one. He goes out with a bang. The Belle Album from 1977. By this point in Green's career, he wasn't having hit singles anymore, and his record sales had really gone down, like you said, Chris, except for his hardcore fans in the R&B and soul market. That's a true shame because the Belle Album is a stunningly great record, his last mostly secular record before he devoted himself strictly to Christian and gospel music. It's also the first time Green produced a whole album himself, by himself, while also playing both acoustic and electric guitar on most of the record. Why is it so great? Simply, it's the best batch of songs, top to bottom, that he had crafted since Call Me. The title track ballad shimmers like a glistening amber, augmented by tastefully layered synthesizers that don't overwhelm the track. Loving You is a wonderful slice of country soul, while Feels Like Summer borrows the melody from Tommy James and the Shondells' Crimson and Clover for the piano riff to help create a perfect amalgam of soul and AM radio pop. Georgia Boy is a sumptuous southern fried funk jam with some killer bass lines, while I Feel Good is white hot dance floor burning disco. All in all is sped up gospel pop in the best sense, while Chariots of Fire revs up the Stevie Wonder-esque clavinet and wah-wah pedal guitars for some lean, mean funk. It's a lot of funk on this record. The album closes with Right on Time, a glorious, rousing track that proves Green could do pop rock as well as anyone of his era. Something must have been in the holy water that Green was baptized in when he was ordained a reverend shortly before recording this killer record. Chris?
Yeah, there's really nothing secular about this record, dude. I mean, this basically is a full. By this point, like I said, ever since '73, there had been this dialectic in terms of him figuring out where his allegiances should lie. And in 1977, by this album is Al's liberation album in so many ways. First, he's not working with Willie Mitchell or the high rhythm section anymore. And so it's him and a bunch of studio folks. And like you said, Al plays guitar on every song on the record. And so there's that. It's also his statement. Belle, the song Belle is one of the best ever written. If you ask me to do a top 100 songs, of the rock and roll era, dating back to 55, this song would be really high. This song is so freaking moving and so good. But what it is, it's basically his statement of divorce from R&B. That he's essentially, effectively, or on the surface, it's a song about Al choosing God over the advances of a woman, right?
Right.
It's you that I want, but it's him that I need, is really the hook. But that woman, Belle, might as well be R&B. And so it's his goodbye officially to R&B. Is like that he makes no bones about it. I have officially chosen God as the compass for my life, not romantic love or not sensual, sinful R&B. And so that is a trick. It's just so amazing in the conviction in his voice on that song. And there's that. You mentioned I Feel Good. That's the greatest disco song about Jesus Christ ever written.
Disco Jesus.
Yeah, it is. It's Disco Jesus. And Chariots of Fire is like just disco fire and brimstone. It's about the burning glory of heaven. And then you mentioned Right on Time. The version I had from 20 years ago, and it's also on Spotify, the last song is Dream, which is just this incredible 8-minute long slow jam about the wonder of dreaming. And just
Right on Time ends the album, the original vinyl album release of 1977.
Okay, I got you.
Not the bonus tracks that the CD era put in with all these albums back in the
Gotcha. But Dream is just incredible. And it's just it's this long, slow, achingly beautiful song that just slinks ahead with a ridiculous amount of passion and feeling, and just a magical meditation on our need and desire to just dream and dream big. Just incredible stuff. Feels Like Summer is the weirdest song on the album because it's a song that says it feels like summer, but then 2/3 of it is really a celebration of snow and snowfall. So most of it is about the glory of snowing. But
Hey,
it's
so
called
it's not a Christian lyric.
Nope. Yeah. So that dream are not Christian lyrics, but they are expressions of joy. So essentially, but again, by this point, gospel has definitely loving you is about Jesus as well.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so and that's my second favorite song. There's Belle, and then Loving You, which comes right after, which just has this nasty little like blues lick from
Right.
Green. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember Green never played on any of his albums when he was working for Willie and High,
Right.
but here he steps in, and the main genius thing about this is that Al just had a great sense of the beat, and
Mm.
so you strip away all of Al of Willie Mitchell's strings and horns, and you're really just sort of down to more of a conventional band. What stands out is the bass and the drum, especially the drum. There's just this really strong, pronounced, almost tribal beat
Yeah.
that Al is able to infuse in this. And Loving You has got one of the better ones. And Georgia Boy, too. Like,
Mm.
Georgia Boy, like you said, is funky as hell. So, yeah, this was definitely his best album since Call Me. It's one of his best albums overall. So he's got those first four records in the streak plus this album that are all basically perfect. And so can't say enough about Al. He goes out in style. And after this, he became the full-time Reverend.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was
Hey,
all
yeah,
gospel all the time.
yeah, although in the 2000s or the noughties, the
Yeah,
aughts,
he
whatever you
came
want to
back.
call them, he came back with a series of records with Willie Mitchell, and they were secular. Yeah, and they had like as many of the original high records studio band as were left alive at the time,
Hmm.
and he did a series of secular traditional Al Green records that were well received, and they're actually pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I remember he did one in 99 that
Yeah.
or 99 or 2000 that was actually really good. But so yeah, he came back. So there you go.
All right, Chris. So tell us, why should Al Green be remembered? Everyone, I'm just going to be really quick for me. I mean, everyone talks about his voice and his brilliant voice and that brilliant sound that he got with Willie Mitchell. I think what people it's a little underrated is how great a songwriter he was. People
Yeah.
should remember the quality of the songs. Really, really great songs that have stood the test of time, that are still as good, if not better, than like most R&B of today. So yeah, those are my 3 cents in how great a songwriter Al Green really was, and that doesn't get picked up enough.
But yeah, he was a consistently great songwriter. I mean, he's one of the best R&B songwriters of all time. And at his best, stuff like Jesus is Waiting and Here I Am and
Right.
Love and Happiness. I mean, he's just an incredible song maestro. But there are really three things that stand out in terms of discussing Al's legacy. And those are, I mean, one, you said it, his voice. I mean, his voice is one of the greatest instruments. He just had this incredible heaven sent gift of an instrument of a voice. I
Yeah.
mean, the range, the depth, the richness, the expressiveness, the power, the conviction, the honesty. I mean, this dude could out Sam Cooke. He could out Otis Redding, and could go way beyond both of them with his falsetto.
Right.
Nobody ever could hit a high range that hit you in the nuts quite like Al Green. So the vocals on his album were just this electrifying adventure to behold. Even of his couple not so great albums still have lots of merit because of Al's voice.
Right.
I mean, the vocal performances are still there, and so it's just that rich, just amazingly expressive instrument, which comes in handy because, again, it's not like he was singing the alphabet and Mary Had a Little Lamb. He was like writing these great, rich, thematically thoughtful songs. And that's where the second point comes in. No one in soul music ever put his soul on the line as clearly and as honestly as Al Green. He really did put it all out there: his pain, his joy, his confusion, his desperation, his guilt, and his glory. His albums offer just a completely absorbing dialectic with himself, a
Mm.
celebration of what he knows is wrong, juxtaposed with an earnest desire to do right and be right. And also the dialogue throughout his catalog about whether his soul was something under the control of himself or put in place by the grace and through the mercy of God. So you mix this amazing gift of a voice with a thoughtfulness and a brutal honesty. And what you have here is a true messenger of musicality and emotionality. Al Green, much like the Blues Brothers, was on a mission from God, and he succeeded in that mission over and over and over and over again. Like I said, all of his albums have at least one awesome pop song.
Right.
And several of them are just basically perfect. And so just great songs, and just he put his heart into everything he did. And then obviously the third thing that he's remembered for is just that sonic template that he and Willie Mitchell assembled with the high musicians. I mean, these productions were just roundly extraordinary and awe-inspiring. Mitchell had a musician's heart and an engineer's precision, and his ability to stitch all of those sounds together into such magnificent tapestry of sound was just unparalleled. I mean, Mitchell knew what kind of weapon he had in Green, and he definitely weaponized him. Dedicated his studio's entire array of resources to unlock Al's magic. He harnessed the gift of the Hodges brothers, especially Teeny. He was able to bring in Al Jackson Jr. and the Memphis horns to add muscle and power and depth and texture. And then Willie just had a knack for putting Al's vocals in the perfect sonic pocket, like I said before. And a lot of folks have been inspired by Mitchell's production work, and countless black artists and even white artists, Teddy Pendergrass, and then rappers like Outkast and the producers for Kendrick Lamar have tried to get that sort of richness. And even like a band like Geese, like songs like Husbands are trying to catch that texture and that soul.
For me, it's not so much texture. For me, it's space. That's what I think.
Texture and space. It's this combination. It's so well textured, but also has that spaciousness to it too.
Right.
And so it's just this incredible, indescribable thing that he was able to do, and they all made it sound so damn effortless too.
Right.
And that's the incredible thing. So I guess there's an effortlessness. There's an awesomeness and an effortlessness to it. So there you go. There's Al's voice. There's his truly soulful soul for the world to see.
Soulful soul.
Yep. And then this effortlessness and spaciousness and texture that Willie Mitchell helped him realize through Mitchell's gifts in a studio. So just amazing stuff. Yep. Long live Al Green. Brilliant fucking artist. Yeah, he's 79.
He turns 80 this year.
Yeah, brilliant fucking artist.
And he's really fat. Like when he performs now, he has to sit on a chair.
Yeah. Hey, it's just what are you going to do? The weight of his emotions are so heavy, they caught up to him in old age. Like his emotional richness has always been 300 pounds, and now so is Al. Yeah. So there you go. And we've come to the end of this exploration of the legacy of Al Green. It's been fairly special, hasn't it, Arturo?
Yeah, it has. It's he's just another one. If the Curmudgeon Rock Report had a legacy Hall of Fame, we have several of them. Al Green is the latest inductee.
Yep, absolutely. And so with that, folks, as we always do at the end of these episodes, we encourage you to join our fabulous Curmudgeonly community. And in recent weeks, the numbers have gone a little up. So we are getting some new people. So welcome everybody to the Curmudgeonly community. Up there, we share lots of goodness. Lots of Al live performances have been shared by Arturo up there lately. And so you can join us at facebook.com/group/curmudgeonrock. It's invite only, but chances are we'll let you in. Have anything to say about Al Green? Do you think Al Green sucks? That probably means you're mentally ill, but we'd love to hear from you anyway. We invite any and all fan mail. curmudgeonrock@gmail.com. And then, as always, we'll have a special Spotify playlist where the best of Al Green's music will be featured. We'll have music from all 10 of these albums that we talked about today, and you'll be able to access the link to that Spotify playlist in our episode description on Apple or Stitcher or Amazon or any of the other podcast services out there that you use to access your podcast. So look out for that. And as always, as Al Green never said, dig it.